need to get a better response than that. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Well done. Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all today to the first fall semester Center for Leadership Studies Distinguished Speaker Series. Thank you so much to all of our attendees here today, particularly all of our wonderful St. Peter students, our faculty, staff, and alumni who are in attendance. Today marks our second ever Center for Leadership Studies Distinguished Speaker Series event, and we have an amazing speaker for you that will be introduced by Professor Butkus in a few moments. Many of you have been to the first Speaker Series event last spring. I just want to reiterate that this Speaker Series is designed to do a couple things. First, it's to bring to our campus community of St. Peter's leaders from the business world, from the military, from law enforcement, sports and athletics, healthcare, and many, many other professions to bring them to campus to share their inspiration and their experiences with our community here at St. Peter's. The center is also a place to provide a vehicle for research and thought leadership, and we'll be sending out more information about that in the future. This center is also living proof of the Guarini School of Business's commitment to developing learners to excel intellectually, to serve compassionately, and to lead ethically in alignment with our Jesuit mission. And while the center is housed within the School of Business, it is open to every student at this university, graduate, undergraduate, in any major or any program. We are so honored and pleased to have such a distinguished leader here with us today. Before I turn it over to Professor Butkus, I just want to say to all the students here, please do your best to listen, learn, and take away leadership lessons here today, but also every day in your classes, in your activities, in your athletic events, and in your relationships. There are leadership lessons to be derived every single day, and you'll grow as a person as you stay attuned to those lessons. For first and second year students, we encourage you to consider applying for our Leadership Fellows program. Please see Professor Butkus at any time, or Devin Varela, who is our current Senior Student Business Fellow, to learn more about the program. In addition, we have these beautiful flyers on the table outside of the room, so please feel free to take one on your way out. Without further ado, I welcome our founding director and professor of leadership and business, Professor Ray Butkus, to the podium to introduce our distinguished leader and speaker today. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, Dean Natus, for those introductory remarks and that very, very gracious introduction. May I also add my words of welcome to those students and administrators and faculty and staff that are here, and especially the students. I see lots and lots of my leadership students, so I'll tell you what, if you are currently a leadership student of mine, or if you have been a leadership student of mine, how about standing up? Yeah, all right. Let's give them a round of applause. Very good. Excellent. You know, in founding the Center for Leadership Studies, I was certain that the creation of a Distinguished Speaker Series was absolutely central to its mission. By bringing leaders to campus to share their perspectives with the St. Peter's community, we seek to illuminate the rich and varied tapestry of leadership excellence. Our speaker today is emblematic of the kind of speakers that Dean Natus referred to, because we want to have speakers who bring a wide and varied background in leadership, and she certainly has done that. 3 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting our featured speaker. I was struck immediately by her professionalism, her presence, her warmth, her engaging personality, and her enthusiasm. Yet I knew little about her. It was only much later that I came to understand the extent of her many accomplishments and the depth of her leadership experience. She brings to the podium a wealth of leadership background and experience in business, both large and entrepreneurial, in public affairs, in academia, and in athletics. She graduated from Queens College with a degree in psychology, and later earned a master's degree in business administration from the University of Phoenix, where she has been featured in a 60-second ad. I might add that she is in very good company in that ad, because Maya Angelou's poetry and reading of her very moving poem, Shall I Rise, is also featured in the same ad. She is currently the Director of Development for the Maxwell College of Arts and Sciences at New Jersey City University. Since her arrival in 2015, she's also served as the Director of Community Outreach and the Director of their Business Development Incubator. She has a long and distinguished business career in finance, having worked with Wall Street's most preeminent firms, such as J.P. Morgan Chase, UBS Paine Webber, and Merrill Lynch. After leaving Wall Street, she launched her own investment advisory and wealth management firm. But her experience does not stop there. She was a player on the first women's basketball team to ever participate in the Olympic Games. I think it was in Montreal, was it?
That's right.
Montreal. And I won't even give the date, because then you would do some math and figure out some age, and I understand that's implied, so I won't do the date. Following the Olympic Games, she played professional basketball in both France and the United States. She serves on the boards of the Queens College Foundation, the Wellesley Center for Women, the United Nations Council on the Status of Women, the Boys and Girls Club of Hudson County, and she's also a member of the New York City Basketball Hall of Fame. She is an executive, an educator, a leader, an athlete, an advocate, a lady, and a friend. Let's make a warm welcome for Ms. Gail Marquis.
That was a great introduction. I might have to take him on the road with me. That was really good. Outside of my mom, that's very good. Well, thank you so much, St. Peter's, for inviting me here to speak to you about leadership. I didn't know where I was going to go with it, because to me, leadership is just innate. So, am I trying to teach you how to be a leader? But then I said to myself, no, they're already leaders. To me, if you make it this far, if you're at a college or university, if you are over 12 years old, you're already a leader. You already have it in you. So that's where my talk is going to be, about the leader that's already in you. There we go. This is this technology. I come from an athletic background, as Professor Butkus said. So a lot of my analogies are going to be around sports. But if you are not an athlete, or you are a, how do they say it, a quiet athlete? You know, an athlete on the side with maybe a little crossover dribble and a head fake, I don't know. Or maybe you are a tennis person to be, or I'm still working on my golf game. Even if you have a little bit of athleticism in you, or maybe you have none. Maybe you have none at all. I can't stand sports, I just want to hear the speech kind of thing. That's fine also, because I find there's so many analogies in and around sports and athletics. And I played sports for a long time, and similar to you going to college, to getting your training, not just these 4 years at St. Peter's, but think about from grade 1, from kindergarten 1, where you had to learn a language, you had to learn your numbers. That all encompasses everything that you are today, and you can't leave things behind as you move forward. Professor Butkus went through a lot of what I've done, and I don't leave it behind. Just simply because I worked on Wall Street and now I'm working in academia, you don't leave it behind. It's a part of you, the good and the bad. It's a part of you, and you take it with you. If you're religious or you're not religious, if you've been to synagogue, church, Muslim, mosque, you take all of that with you. Those are all experiences that happen to you, that shape you, that make you. So you don't want to leave them behind. And as you'll see in some of my talks, I talk about fall down, get up. Because as much as you hear about the glorious things that happened to me, you don't hear about the inglorious. You don't hear about maybe a door that slammed, or I hear a little slight sometimes, or I'm not picked for all those national teams. We talk about me being on the first Olympic team, the first time they ever had women's basketball at the Olympic Games. But I can hardly talk about how many times I got cut when I went to try out for the Pan American Games and the World Championship Games. And I went to one tryout, and usually there are 12 people on a basketball team. This coach decided I'm only going to take 6, and I'll find some others when I go back to my own university. It's pretty bad, you know. It's like 20 ladies. You couldn't find 12 of us that might be able to help you out? She said no. So those are some of the disappointments that you experience, or I experienced along the way, but you can't leave them behind. I went to the Pan American tryouts, and that's between all the countries in North and South America. So it might be Greenland, Canada, the United States, everything through Central and Latin America, all of South America. Those are the Pan American Games. I would try out for those as well, and I didn't get selected. And I grew up not in a sports family, but in a Girl Scout family. So my mom was a Girl Scout, my father was a Girl Scout, we had cookies all over the house, my 2 brothers were Girl Scouts. It was all in the family. So when I would come back from these disappointments, to me, my mother would just broadcast it to the whole airport with a poster and say, "We love you, Gail, we're sorry you didn't make that," whatever team it was. She didn't really care, she just wanted me back home. But to me, it was just showing the entire airport, or the whole community, what a failure I was. But that was not the case. That was just mom with her posters. So I talk about falling down and getting back up. I have a great friend, a Paralympian. Her name is Bonnie St. John's. And Bonnie St. John is an African-American woman. She's out of California. She's a Paralympian. She has had her leg amputated just below the knee. I think it's this one here. So that's the left leg. But she was in downhill skiing, 1984. And Bonnie was the first African-American woman to medal at the Olympic Games in downhill skiing. And one thing she always says is that she fell down on the downhill and she didn't get the gold only because she didn't get up fast enough. So fall down, get up. I always attribute to Bonnie St. John, one of my favorite Paralympians. Through sports, I've learned to adapt. Very often, coaches will have you run a play. Go up, do this, set this pick, roll here. Same thing in football. They'll tell you to take it down and out, make a left in. Soccer also. Gymnastics. She'll tell you how to mount the beam, how to go up, eyes forward, but you have to adapt. You might get a flash bulb in your eye. You might get somebody on the opposite side who doesn't line up the same way that the coach said for you to line up. Or you're supposed to go down and set this pick and open up to the ball. It doesn't always happen that way. One thing that sports has taught me is to learn to adapt. So I don't always look at things the same way. I'm looking for the change. I'm looking for if the microphone doesn't work. I came in here a half hour early to work on the videos just to make sure this whole presentation goes well. I'm waiting for something to go wrong. You learn to adapt, and I'm not going to stop and flub through it. You probably won't even know when things don't work well. I do more than expected. It's just my nature. And maybe it comes up because coming up as a young lady and as a woman in sports, men always had something else. Boys always had more time in the gym. They had better uniforms. They had uniforms. Okay, they had scholarships. I tell the young people they had not invented scholarships for women when I grew up. And it wasn't illegal either. Just the guys got scholarships. So these little injustices to me, or these little indifferences to me, are what helped me speak out, what helped me get my voice. It wasn't right, and I just couldn't sit there, and I couldn't always rely on my parents or my coach to fight my fight, or fight my battle. And this is where I think the early leadership comes in. I talk about failure because to me failure is the road to success. If I had been at the top of the game for the time I walked on the court, let's say I was 12 years old or 17 years old when I walked on a college court, and maybe if I had been the very best, I would not have worked as hard. I wouldn't have seen the challenges. I wouldn't have seen other players that are better than me, other people that are better than me. I got to step up my game. I grew up in a town in St. Albans, Queens, New York, and I played on my team, and I was the best on my basketball team. There's only about, 8 of us on the team? In this little town in St. Albans, Queens, New York, outside of Jamaica. So I'm thinking in my head, this is the thought of a 17-year-old, 15-year-old. If I'm good here, then I must be the best in all of Queens. I'm the best in all of Queens. I must be the best in all of Manhattan. I must be the best in all of New York State. That's the world, right? Wrong. You know that's wrong. All it takes is one trip to Harlem to go ahead and play those gals. We got dusted. I think we scored maybe 4 baskets the whole time. You get out of your bubble and you see how other people work hard, how people learn games, how people adapt. And from there I knew I had to go on and get a lot better in what I was doing. I have a slide a video I want you to hear. I'm going to ask my friend to come up. Russell, right? Russell's going to come up. This is just Colin Powell talking about excellence, the essence of leadership. And I like to bring him in as I tap into others. He's going to talk a little bit about leadership, and what he leaves you with in leadership is trust. It's a simple factor that to be a leader, you can lead people if you can get them to trust you. And we'll hope we get that up on the screen, right? Okay, good. So we hope we get it up on the screen. If not, we'll just get the audio and we'll work from there.
My name is Amy Wilkinson. I'm a White House Fellow. My question is how you would define the key characteristics of effective leadership that allow you to go and be an advocate for good?
Trust. The longer I have been in public service and the more people have asked me about leadership over the years, leadership ultimately comes down to creating conditions of trust within an organization. Good leaders are people who are trusted by followers. Leaders take organizations past the level that the science of management says is possible. One of my sergeants back in the infantry school at Fort Benning almost 50 years ago, which is where I learned everything I ever got to learn about leadership, was at the infantry school. And he said to me one day, he said, "Lieutenant, you'll know you're a good leader when people follow you, if only out of curiosity." I've never had a better definition. Because what he was saying, and I've seen it experienced in my life many times, what he was saying is, they trust you. And you have built up that trust. How did you do it? Clear mission and statement, selfless service. People look to you and they trust you because you're serving selflessly as the leader, not self-serving, selflessly. And that you prepare the followers, you train them. You give them what they need to get the job done. Don't give them a job if you're not going to give them the resources. And that you're prepared to take the risks with them. And so they would teach us at the infantry school, no matter how cold it is, Lieutenant, you must never look cold. No matter how hungry you all are, Lieutenant, you must never appear hungry. No matter how terrified you are, Lieutenant, you must never look terrified. Because if you are scared, terrified, hungry, and cold, they will be scared, terrified, hungry, and cold. I've gotten away with that many, many times in the course of my career by being scared to death, cold, and wanting to go to sleep. But no, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's go around this corner, if only out of curiosity. And they'll follow you into the darkest night, down the deepest valley, up the highest hill, if they trust you. So the essence of leadership is about doing all that the science of management says you can with resources, but then taking it that extra step and giving it that spark. And that spark comes from getting people to trust you so that they will follow you, if only out of curiosity. Thank you.
So I always like to bring up that part about the trust, because it's innate. And if you don't have it, it's something that you can work on, that you can build on. Another facet, General Powell speaks so well. You have to be confident in your speech. You have to be confident in how you present yourself, how you speak up. And the only thing you might have to do is maybe practice. I met a couple of young ladies, they were with their professor just as we were coming in. I was so pleased that when they shook my hand to say hello, they shook my hand. It didn't feel like a limp fish, like a dead fish or something, okay? They looked me in the eyes, and they said their name clearly so that I could hear you and understand you, and I could able to repeat it and say, "Hi, it's Stephanie, it's so nice to meet you." Simple things like that. That's what makes you a leader. the fact that you're already in there, you're already in the game. A lot of us come from different countries that have names that we're not familiar with. It may not be a John or a Mary, okay? It may not be something you often heard. You're going to have to take your time and enunciate your name clearly so that we can hear you. Because if you say your name fast and run through it, what am I going to say? What am I going to do on the other side? Am I going to remember your name? And I know you want me to remember your name. I know you want me to say it. So just think about, one, making good eye contact, giving a firm handshake, not a limp one. Professor Butkus and I work in the Goldman Sachs College Collaborative Program. That's where we met. And one of the first things we talk about in the social skills is speaking up, say your name clearly, give me a strong handshake. That's all part of it. And it's not just for here at St. Peter's. It's not just here for Jersey City. That's for the rest of your life. Because those are some of the first impressions that you're making. Eye contact, speaking up. When people ask for a volunteer, you cannot be scared. Not allowed. All right? Get over that. You're in college already, right? You can't be scared. You can't be shy. You can't wait for somebody else to speak up and take your place. This is for you. Again, Colin Powell saying that worth learning from failure. He's always imposing failure because they work off of it. Because failure hits the core almost better than success. Almost better than when you succeed. Sometimes they talk about some of the recreation teams that we have in local communities. They have rec teams for the young ones, from 7 or 8 years old, right? And everybody makes the team because you live in that town or that community. So what happens? There's no failure there. You just kind of think, you know, I made the team. Yeah, you made the team because you live here. Everybody with a street address, everybody paying taxes get to be on that team. But then they have those elite touring teams that leave town, that leave county, that play across the state or play in the nationals. And you're not going to make that team unless you're worthy, unless you practice, unless you should be on that team. So again, failure. Failure gives you a chance to look at different things. A lot of the social skills I picked up and I applied all through leadership, the interaction. After I came off of the Olympic team, I was pissed because there was no place else for me to play. I'd already played 4 years of college basketball. I played in the Olympic Games. We got the medal. We beat everyone but the Russians. But I think they were taking something because they never won a gold medal again. And their center was 7'2", 400 pounds, right? So that's not natural. So I think they might have been taking something. But those kind of skills got me saying, I'm not going to stay here after being on the best team, the best women's basketball team in the whole nation, #2 in the world. So I went to Europe. I went to France. I put a deal together, and I decided I was going to go to France and play basketball for a team on the south of France. And I told my father, because I lived with my parents, I told my father, I said, Daddy, take me to the airport, Kennedy Airport, because they left a ticket for me at Air France. I'm going to France. He barely put down a newspaper. He didn't believe it. And then I nudged him, I kept at him, I got to go get my ticket. He finally drove me to the airport, and these were the days when you could drive up to an airport at the curb, and your father could sit in the car, and you can go inside and conduct business. They didn't have the cops telling you to get out of here. TSA didn't say, run you out of here. You know, if you see something, say something. It was before that. So he sat there, and about 10 minutes later, I came out with my ticket, Daddy, going to France in 2 weeks, 10 days. Couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it such that he called my sister in Portland, Oregon, to tell her to tell me that I could not go to France. Now, mind you, my bedroom was here. I think my father's bedroom was right there where that little projector is. Yet he decided to call my sister in Portland, Oregon to tell her that she can't go. He had no idea what he had, but he should have known what he had. My father should have known because he raised us. He didn't raise us to sit up underneath him and wait for him to make the move. Did your parents raise you like that? Say no. They didn't raise you to sit there and wait for your parent to come in and make the move. Not once you got out of grade school, they didn't. Maybe, they do that after grade school. They do it a little bit in middle school, but by high school, they want you to set yourself free. Get out there, you make the decision. Make a wrong decision. Come back and ask them how to rectify it. They love that stuff. So when my father called my sister in Portland, Oregon, she was really the wrong one because she had already been in the Peace Corps for 2 years. She had been an exchange student and had lived in Belgium or Denmark or one of the Scandinavian countries for a couple of years. So she was like, yeah, get up and get out that house. leadership began, and that's what he had to understand, the body language, the communications. I think communications is probably the most important, because I tell my students now that if you don't communicate and speak up and say who you are, there are people in the White House who say who you are, right? You're rapists, you're criminals, you don't work, you know, you're here illegally. If you don't speak up and communicate, and it may not be verbal, it might be through your actions. Actions speak louder than words, first impressions, yes, all of that. That all comes to fruition. And it just doesn't end right now in this moment. So when I would go to Europe, and they might see me, and my teammates would see me, and they figured out, well, she lives in New York, she must know Michael Jackson. You know Michael Jackson? Yeah, I got his records. Do you know him? I said, no, he lives in California, other side. And they would come back like this. And if you don't speak up and communicate, because sometimes in other countries, they see America, the United States, they see it maybe not much bigger than their own country. Let's say the country of France, or the country of Spain, okay? Or some of our Latin American countries, El Salvador we mentioned. They might just see it as just that big, so if you know so-and-so, you must know so-and-so. No, I didn't know Michael Jackson. One of my regrets. Does that mean I have to talk fast?
Oh, that should be good.
Okay, that's what they say in technology. Okay, keep going. All right, that's my extent of that technology. Keep an eye on that, Russell. Communications we already spoke about. I always like to lead these discussions with a call to action, because it's not me just spewing everything out. It's got to be, what are you going to do? What actions are you going to take? And think about the world you're already stepping into. We need leaders all around, and they come in all shapes and sizes, all forms, for all types of reasons. I hope, and I know that you're already volunteering in your community. I know you're part of your communities, and I know you're part of your different associations here on campus, but think how you can step up into more leadership roles. And if you don't want to be the number one, you've got to pace yourself right behind number two, or be number three. But at this stage in your life, you got to be gleaning off of somebody else. You have to be learning off of other leaders. You have to be modeling. You have to have mentors. Usually I do an exercise that I just ask you to think about somebody. Some of you who have pieces of paper, think about who in your life has the number one person who has really pushed you the most, who has made the greatest impact on you. Who has done that? It might be a family member, it could be a religious member, it could be a professor here at the university, could it be somebody you met. And then when you think about someone who has made the biggest impact on your life, think about his or her qualities. What are his or her qualities? Because those are the things that you're looking for when you're choosing a mentor, when you're choosing somebody who you can work off, somebody who you can talk to, somebody who you can model yourself after. Who's made the biggest impact? And what are their characteristics? 3 of their characteristics. So write down the question if you can't do it now, but that's your assignment. Because that's going to help your focus in who you should choose or where you're going. An authentic leader is one who can step up when the going gets tough. Step forward. Be ready to step forward. Prepare yourself. Imagine that things are going to go wrong, or imagine that the opportunity is going to be there for you to step in. See life from other perspectives. Walk in other people's shoes. Just don't think that, he's crazy, I don't know why he does that. Think why he would do that. Think what his thinking is. It may not be correct, it may not align with yours, but you have to look at the other side. Leaders see the other side. Otherwise, you can't lead. You can't put yourself in someone else's spot. You have to be able to understand why they're thinking like that, and why they may not be wrong. They may not be right, but at least you'll understand. And in the same token, they get to understand you as well. It's not a one-way street. And you have to make an attempt to understand different perspectives of the world that we live in, the world that they live in. One of my favorite quotes here is about our deepest fears. And this was a turning point for me when I heard this, maybe 30 years ago, because I was a little frustrated, a little angry, and I think more of it was because I was a little fearful. and it was time for me to step up. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. More powerful than you realize. And it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. I think the biggest thing that I get out of here, everyone always thought, and I did too, that it was Nelson Mandela had this in his May 1994 inaugural address. And I always thought it was his quote, his statement. And it's much longer, so you can go ahead and Google our deepest fear, and you'll find the full statement. But I always thought it was Nelson Mandela. It's actually a poem from Marianne Williamson. But our deepest fear is that we're playing small. We're playing small. Everyone in this room is playing small. I play small sometimes too, even at 6 feet. I hope people don't notice me. Maybe I can ease in and out of here. You ever sign up for something where they say RSVP, and then you don't show up, and you say, oh, they won't miss me. They miss you. They miss me. I know. They called me right out. Gail, you weren't there. How can you tell? You had like 10 million people in the room. How can you tell I was not there? We missed you. That's our biggest fear. I was afraid. I was afraid to speak up. I had to find my voice. It was way overdue. And it wasn't about having the right answers or being the chosen one. It was me. I had to speak up because I was already mad and angry from a women's issue, from a black-white issue, from sports issue. We weren't getting our chance. I had to speak up, and I felt so much better. Not that I was saying the right thing or the wrong thing, but my voice was being heard. So I remember earlier in my talk I said, if you're not good in public speaking, practice it. I would tell some of my students, I would tell them if English is a challenge for you, or if it's a second language, get the newspaper, get the magazine, go in the bathroom, close the door, right in front of the mirror. Start reading the newspaper out loud. No silent meditation. Read it out loud. Hear your voice. I used to do broadcast color commentary for basketball games, so that's fast action. And I'm calling the play, and I got my guy with me, he's calling the play, and I get to put in commentary. I always ask for a tape of those games. Not only so I could see what I look like, but to hear what I look like. And I started to hear where I would flub words, or I didn't enunciate clearly, or if I made a mistake on somebody's name, I would always go back to go get it. I listen to some of those commentators now, they just fly right through it, even if they can't get those Czech names or Slavic names together or Italian names. If they can't get the names, they just keep going forward. And so that's what I learned in listening to myself. I wouldn't let myself be stopped. I stopped being scared. I had to step up. I do a lot of quotes, and I put some in it. You saw that one, Our Deepest Fear. And one of my favorite at the bottom of this, I'm going to ask this young lady, chewing gum, right here, nice and loud. Just read that bottom line for me.
Lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Get out of the way. Lead, follow, get out of the way. Now, these are my quotes. All right? You go get your own. Seriously, what inspires you? And you need to memorize your quotes. You need to have them. Our deepest fear is one that I have. You know, I get it in the back of my head sometimes. Because I might be in a room with people that don't look like me. All right? If you're in a room with people that don't look like you, you're supposed to be there. I sit on the board of one foundation, and I've been the only woman of color 2007. So that's about at least 10 years. I've been the only woman of color on that board. And I'm tired of being on that board. But guess what? I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving until somebody that looks like me gets on that board, because who knows what they're going to say when I'm not there. All right? If you're in a room, if you're in a boardroom, I've been in boardrooms where I'm the only one. And it's like, oh well, oh heck, you were put there for a reason. Don't be scared. When I'm on boards, when I'm in foundation meetings, they ask for comments, I give them the comments. When they say who will second that motion, or who will make a motion, I'll make a motion. Because I want Gail Marquis in those meeting minutes. Can I get a second? Right here, second. Gail Marquis, second that motion. My name is in there. My name is there for posterity. The minutes are legal records, right? You want your name in there. I'm in the room. Okay? Don't be scared. And you get your quotes the same way I have. I have a lot of quotes. Yours might be biblical sayings. Okay? Those are just as good. The most important are things that speak to you and things that you can remember. So don't take mine because you like me, all right? Go get your own that inspire you. And get a couple of them. Write them in books. Write them on your, don't just put them in your phone. Write them down so you can pick it up and look at it. I keep a calendar at home and I keep them written. Post-its around, looking at stuff. They inspire me. Leadership requires increased self-reflection and self-awareness. You're always checking yourself. You're checking yourself, all right? Leaders do that. A change in the view of the world that we live in. Mine changes. Okay, I looked at things differently. I don't think everyone on the other side is crazy or how can they think like that. I go on that side to find out, what do they see? What do they see when they're standing there and looking this way? Because leaders have to have that broad sense. You have to have that broad look. It's not going to be tunnel vision. It's not just going to be a Hudson County view. Okay? Hudson County is a gritty neighborhood. It's a gritty county. All right? Other parts of New Jersey are not like that, are not like this. So you have to be able to look out. So when you're done working, getting your education here, you may not work in Hudson County. Often we have a hard time getting them to go out to other counties to work, other parts of the state to work, because they're not always looking like you. They don't always have the same temperament, but you as a leader, you're ready to go out and look around. Connect with others. Speak your mind. Be tough and challenge yourself. All part of being a leadership. This is my commercial. I'm not going to run it, but you can Google me. Still I Rise is a commercial I did for the University of Phoenix. I shot a lot of it at New Jersey City University. And then as a leader, you are the visionary. I talk to people about that Olympic team. When I was wishing for the Olympic team, it didn't even exist. How do you wish for something that's not even there? Right? Young man, stand up and read that quote. Nice and loud, nice and loud. Read that, one of my favorites. Nice and loud.
Some men see things as they are, and that's why. I do things that they were, and that's why.
And who's that by?
Robert Kennedy.
Senator Robert Kennedy. Thank you. See things that aren't even there. And if you see things, or if you allow yourself to dream, okay, who knows, you might just be on an Olympic team. You might bend over, they put that medal around your neck, they give you 2 kisses, they say something in another language, and your mother meets you at the airport with a big old poster. Big old poster. That's my team, that's me receiving my medal, that's my Olympic team. And then when I went home, there were kids all over the house. They were all out in front of the house, it was knee deep, so the car pulls up. I'm like, wow, this is good, it's a nice reception and everything. And then I get out the car, they're still all in line and everything. I get up to the house, these kids are not moving. My mother says, oh, well, I'm running a school lunch program during the summer and I'm a little late, so let me go run off and feed these like 50 kids who are outside the house. No, they're not here for me. They're here for her. So if you allow yourself to dream, and I like this shot because one dream leads to an even bigger one. Now, if I was scared, I would never have the nerve to go up to Cory Booker or Chris Matthews or Muhammad Ali or Tony Bennett or Condoleezza Rice or Billie Jean. If I was scared or nervous, if I had fear in me, right? So that's what it can lead to. That's what it has. That has to be your ultimate goal, that you're not shy, that you can dream what you don't even see. How this could be better. You got that? So when I come back here, we have leaders, not dreamers. My name is Gail Marquis. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come and share my thoughts. Hopefully you guys.
Gail, thank you so much. How about that, huh? How about that? Let's do that. We've got time for a few questions, so what I would ask you to do is stand up and use the mic, and the reason we want to do that is we're filming this, and if you use the mic, it'll appear on the film, and we're able to hear your question. Okay, Devon.
My name is Kevin. I want to ask you what inspires you, what drives you every day.
Sometimes what drives me is injustice, stuff that's not right. Sometimes what drives me is things should be better. So that moves me a lot. A lot of things that drove me in the beginning, and when I didn't have my voice, when I was almost allowing others to do it, was more of me just sitting back and thinking somebody else can handle it, and other people can't handle it. I'm a spiritual person, whether I get my quotes or read my scripture or let the universe, the way the universe interacts with me. The fact that I'm here in front of young people is for a reason, because I prepared myself, and Professor Buckets thought enough of me that I can bring a message here to you. So what inspires me, what moves me is my preparation, is the fact that I have something to say, I know I can make an impact, and also I need to speak up. I need to say something. I joined a march, I think it was for guns, about 2 years, to stop guns and all, and I was very pleased. I went to one of the high schools, and the young people had taken over, and they were telling us what to do, where to go, where to line up. And then we marched through the streets from Jersey City. We ended up at City Hall, and it was a voice. I had to speak up. You had to be involved. You couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. So those are some of the things, the injustices that inspire me. And it doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It might just be that maybe you want to get a clinic or a rec center up in your neighborhood. Maybe you have different associations you want to be a part of, or you want to get them going. You need to speak up so that you have a chance to practice, you have a chance to fail, you have a chance to meet people and invite them to come. Would you mind coming to speak to my group, or be able to ask questions? So that's where all of that comes from.
Hi, my name is Carlos Adama, and I want to ask you how you feel every time that people say no to you, that they stop you as an athlete. What passed through your mind, and what made you keep going and become stronger the next time?
You almost want to get a no. You almost live for a no. I was in sales a lot, and if somebody didn't say no to me, I was going to keep selling. I'm going to keep pitching to you. I'm going to keep trying to get you to buy this insurance and try to get you to buy this, that, or the other. And when they say no, it's an opportunity for you to move on to someone else, to something else. And you can't take it personally, all right? Even if they say something personal. You have to have the thick skin to move forward. And again, I've always taken it as a lesson to be learned, all right? They didn't like me for whatever reason, and I knew I couldn't take it. How am I going to say this? You couldn't make race a factor. So I'm trying out for those national teams, and even though I knew it might be about race, you can't use race as a crutch. You just couldn't. So when they're saying, no, you can't be on the World University team, no, we're not going to select you for the Pan Am, no, even in my mind, when I went to the Olympic team, I just said, this is the last one. I said, I prayed my prayers, and I said, Lord, everything I've learned, everything you've taught me, just put it all together. And then after this, if I don't make this team, I'll totally understand. But I'm leaving everything on the court. I'm leaving everything on the floor. So when they say no, even on a job interview, you're going through job interviews now, and almost the no doesn't even come face to face. The no will come in. The no will come on the fact that they don't even reply to your email or reply to your resume on some of these job search websites. Those are no's as well. The fact that they don't reply. So when you get those replies, just run it past other people. Stand in front of the mirror. Have other people critique you. Do a little role play, as it would, just to make sure you're on point. And I had one student who had applied, and he was an older gentleman too. Older, like he was in his late 20s, I think, maybe early 30s. And he was applying for jobs, and he would get to the face-to-face interview. And it might have been down to the last 3. And he didn't get the job. This happened repeatedly. And I would tell him, your win, look for the win. Your win is the fact you got an interview, a face-to-face interview. You didn't get rejected on the email. They brought you in. You have to look for those wins and turn those no's into wins and small little chips. Remember I told you about those failures? Those little failures keep adding to you. So turn those no's into wins and just keep going forward. You keep going forward. You take the lessons that are learned.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Shaflin. I'm currently a sophomore student. My question to you is, how high can a leader go if the people holding the ladder is not strong enough?
Oh, that's a nice
So,
question.
enough to pay my tuition, but I'm blessed enough for me to have the freedom to pick my majors. But I know some girls like me, their parents say, oh, because I'm paying your tuition, you get to choose what I want you to go to school for. So I know friends of mine are going to careers where they didn't choose, which they don't like. So if their parents aren't like strong enough to support what they want to do in life, how can they be a strong leader in what they actually love?
Exactly right. Well, they're always going to be your parents. They don't have to be your benefactors. Say, oh, you need to get a job. Well, your parents need to get a job and start paying for it. They have places where you can borrow funds, where you can get scholarships. Yes. I think if you have a mindset that they're telling you to go one direction, that's leadership right there. That's the first stage of leadership. Do you have the voice to say no? I love you, Mom and Dad. You're always going to be my mom and dad, but this is the way I want to go. And it's not unusual. It's not unusual for maybe their favorite son. I want you to take over the business. This is a great farm for you to take over. It's not what you want to do. So you better make your own money. You better earn your own money. Find your own scholarship. Find your own grants. So you can make it your better way. And I will tell young ladies, you need to be financially independent. Young men, you need to be financially independent. You need to understand money. That it's not going to be all on a credit card or all on a payday loan or an exuberant interest rate. You need to find that as part of your independence. A lot of women, young girls, get caught up in relationships where that person, that partner that they're with, almost keeps them there because they have the money. They have access to the credit cards, they might have the better credit score, but still, you can break away from that. They're always going to be your parents, they're always going to love you. But that young, you can tell that young sister, that young friend, she needs to stand on her own, go to career services or financial aid, find out how she might be able to get her own money for college, and decide what major she wants. And then you speak up, you find your voice. That's part of leadership. That's probably her first task.
Yeah, it's also a cultural thing.
Yes.
Where you don't want to go against your parents' wishes. So that's kind of hard too, if it's like the norm in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where.
Well, that's everywhere. It's not just an African dilemma. You can ask anybody here. Nobody here wants to go against their parents' wishes. You know, your parents might want you to be a lawyer. You want to be, or your parents say be an accountant. My father wanted me to be a Department of Corrections. Oh my gosh, Daddy, I said, I thought you loved me. He wanted me to take that exam for the Department of Corrections. That means you work in the prisons. But his mindset was that his daughter's going to have a steady job, she's going to have a pension, she'll have health. You know, they have that in mind. I didn't take that job. I was not going to work. I might be somebody I know, first of all. So I said, no, I wasn't going that route. But that's the first step of leadership. For me, it might have been the second, because that was like a year after I had, maybe less than a year after I had asked him to take me to the airport. So it's not just a cultural thing, but you need to speak up. You need to stand up, and there are other venues for you to get funding for college. And I think the parents will appreciate it. They'll appreciate that strong young girl that they've raised, that strong young woman, that strong young man who's able to speak up and say, no, Dad, I'd like to try this. And it's not unusual. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Kobe Pardo. I just wanted to ask what made you transition from psychology to business, because I used to be a psych major, but then I switched mine recently to business. But what made you get bachelor's in psychology to then getting your master's in business?
Right, I had it in psychology and education, and really it was, I was different after those 4 years. I was different after the competition and the drive. I was very competitive coming off of the national team, and I just wasn't ready just to be a teacher, teaching education. At that time, they also had a freeze on teaching licenses, so I wasn't going to be able to go into the schools. So I made the switch to business and went in at an entry level, went in as a novice because it was more competitive for me. And I had always been a competitive person, but again, I had probably taken the safe route, which was, get the degree in education and psychology so you have a job as a teacher. I, in turn, ended up going to Wall Street, and even though I didn't have a business background or a business degree, I went in at entry level. So I was stamping papers and moving papers around, but I did go to different certifications. I got my Series 7, so I could sell stocks, bonds, and securities. I got my 6 and 63, all of those licenses you need. And maybe 10 years, 20 years later, I went and got my MBA. And the MBA at that point was a breeze because I had been living business already.
Well, I'm mindful of the time, and I know many of you students have a 1 o'clock class, and I've got about 4 minutes to 1, so I think we're basically out of time. But I want to really thank our presenter. I think she's given a magnificent presentation. So one more time, let's give a big round of applause. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the spring semester.